Good morning.
Good morning.
And greetings to those of you joining us online. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist West Side congregation. I am Laurel Anderson, today's service associate, and our speaker today is our consulting minister, the Reverend Dr. Nancy Hitt. The program is entitled The Beauty of You. It is based on principles 1 and 2, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Today, some of our usual volunteers are absent, all for very good reasons. Dana Sanford is waiting for a prospective buyer for his house. Graham and Roxy Castet are waiting for the repairman to arrive to do some work on their house. We thank Steve Boyani for taping the service, and we also thank Dee Curry for the permission to use the book, The Beauty of Being Yourself, True Self, and sharing the poster-sized pages that you see around the sanctuary with us. Here are this morning's announcements. 211 pounds of non-perishable food was delivered from UUWC to the Storehouse West this week. Yesterday, a very small group worked on widening and cleaning the access to our lower labyrinth. It is now very attractively set up with easy access from the parking lot. Thank you for those who worked. Next Saturday, September 18th, we are gathering a yard cleanup crew from 9 to 11 a.m. If you can spare a little time to groom our grounds, please show up with your preferred yard tool in hand. We will continue the excellent work begun on our labyrinths to prepare for our community event on October 16th. Mark your calendars. Yesterday, 9 of us gathered for the first of 6 AWARE, A-W-A-R-E, that is Alliance of White Anti-Racists Everywhere, sessions. For 90 minutes, we learned and shared some of our experiences with the issues of race. Our next session is September 25th at 10:30. Our topic will be microaggressions. You are welcome to drop by for the session. Our program meeting is today at 12:30 in the green room. We will be planning for fall and holiday programming for the remainder of the year. All input is welcome. You do not have to give a sermon to contribute. Please stand as you are able and join us in our chalice lighting. No matter where we light it, our chalice light remains the same. May it inspire us to find similarity and difference in all things, and to embrace them both as inherently good. Shalom and amen. Please join me in affirming our aspirations. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Shalom. Please remain standing for our opening song, number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Okay, so many of you know that Carol, our customary song leader, is in Hawaii, poor woman, I spoke to her yesterday, and she sounds downright gleeful. And I finally said to her, so did you call to lord it over me? Or what? So, we will miss her this morning. I'm aware that this hymn has 3 verses. I'm also aware that we're going to be singing a cappella, and y'all have to follow me. So we're going to do 1.
All right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I know we know this. I will apologize in advance for any discomfort with the range. And if you can sing harmony, feel free to do so. But morning has broken, so let's put it to song. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Thank you. Please be seated. Yeah, we're good. Center.
Oh, jumping ahead.
That's okay. I invite you now to sit back in your seat, whether you're here in our sanctuary or at home somewhere, upright and yet relaxed. Uncross your ankles, your knees, your wrists, and let the energy just flow easily through your body. Close your eyes if you are comfortable doing so, or choose a focal point for your gaze. Picture your mind and all it holds as a flexible balloon, stretching and reshaping to accommodate your thoughts. Now, take a deep breath, filling your lungs with air, and as you exhale, picture that balloon deflating, relaxing into blankness, into emptiness. Inhale again, and then exhale, keeping your mind still, breathing in and out. Relax into the rhythm of your breathing. Let the stillness at your center ground your whole self. Breathing slowly and deeply. As thoughts intrude, just breathe them out. Fill yourself with life-giving air. Exhale, releasing tension. Simply rest peacefully inside yourself, floating in that inner pool of peace and tranquility. Revel in the stillness, rested and relaxed. Breathe in and out. Absorb the energy at your core. Breathing in and breathing out. Begin now to notice again your external surroundings. What the chair feels like against your back. The small sounds in the space around you. And when you are ready, refocus on the here and now and open your eyes. Shalom. It is time now for us to celebrate our joys and concerns, and we have a lot before us to mark today. Our first candle this morning is a candle of remembrance for George Oppenheimer, who died this past week. George was 93. George had a heritage of Judaism, for whom it is a special blessing to die during the high holy days. So the phrase I offer from his heritage on his behalf now is, "May his memory live for a blessing." Now, George left instructions that no service was to be held for him. However, he also left a piece that his executor gave me that he would like to have shared at this point in time. So we light this candle, and please note the teal accents. With all of the shortages of the pandemic, this was as close to teal as I could get. And I was really surprised to discover that George had left instructions as to color. But he specified teal or some sort of blue-green. So we have wrapped his candle and placed it in as close to blue-green a container as we can. This is titled An Epitaph, and this is what George asked that you consider when you remember him. It doesn't actually apply concretely, so hear it in the abstract. Here lies a man who embraced life, counted success by the productive seeds he sowed for the benefit of others, and accepted death as part of the life cycle. He died not in anguish for what he was losing, but in gratitude for the time he was given, and prayed that his spirit of connectiveness, as well as the matter and energy he now released, would continue to enhance life. So there are George's last wishes for all of us. I can also tell you that George's ashes will be interred at the Santa Fe National Cemetery. George was a veteran, and again, these are his wishes. There will be a short military-style committal service at that point in time, and I will send out a link when I have more information about that. It takes a little bit of time to schedule that event at that cemetery. So when I have more information, I will share it with you, and if anybody wants to join me there, we can do that. Today, this particular Sunday, holds a whole lot of memories and feelings for many of us. Yesterday marked the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We will observe that together following our personal joys and concerns. So let's share elements of our lives that connect us to one another in community. We were all on the same wavelength because the card Steve gave me out of the basket is the same thing that I have written here in my manuscript, and that is Dan Porterfield's surgery tomorrow. She is scheduled to have a partial knee replacement, and that is, of course, Carol's excuse for being in Hawaii. So we know that Dan will be in good hands as she recovers. We also want to light a candle of joy for Dana's house showing and hope that that works to his advantage. He tells me that he's had several times that people came to view the property and expressed some interest in it, so we're hopeful that one or another of these will pan out for him. A candle of concern for Bram and Roxy's house repairs, which I discovered this morning when Bram met me at the end of her driveway with the animal ministry moment in hand so that we could read it on her behalf later. They have no internet. And that is like a lifeline, so they needed to be there for the repairman to come. Are there other joys and concerns? Yes. There. I'll take it.
Can I use it? Sure.
No.
Now it is.
Okay, I have a concern. On Wednesday, I'm going in for some surgery. It's a day thing. I'll be out, hopefully, and healthy and well. But I'm a little nervous about it.
I'll go around this way.
I just learned that my 8-year-old grandson has COVID.
Oh.
Well, my 8-year-old grandson and my 9-year-old granddaughter came to spend the night with me last night, and we were all very excited about it. The little boy, Anakin, had been sleeping really heavily all afternoon and was pretty not feeling very well, so when Jenny touched his forehead, it was on fire. So that was the end of the overnight. They went to urgent care. He tested negative, but they said take him back and test again because the rapid tests, don't always work. If he were to be positive, his sister Rose would have to quarantine for 20 days out of Jenny's class. Jenny would have to stay home with her. It would, and there is no more COVID sick leave being, I guess that was a federal thing for teachers, and so that would pretty much eat up all of her sick leave. And it's only the beginning of the year, so we're really, it's a hard time to go through.
Well, I actually have a joy. My husband showed up yesterday, and to my surprise, he was actually able to do some work at the labyrinth. And normally, even getting up and walking around would leave him completely finished for the day. But we went home after being there for over 2 hours, and he still was okay, and it didn't really do anything to him. He was just a little tired. So this makes me feel a lot more hopeful because we have a camping trip coming up next weekend, and I've been a little bit worried about how well he's going to do, but I'm feeling a little bit better about that now.
Actually, I have 3 things to say.
Joys or concerns? Or some of each?
One's in the middle, one's a concern, and I guess the other's a concern. Well, the first one I'll talk about is George. I'm concerned that he'll no longer be with us on Sunday mornings. For, I think it was 2 years I attended the class with him. And I really, really appreciated his wisdom during that class. It was great. And I occasionally saw him at democratic things too. And that was good too. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, the joy is that there's popcorn out there left over from yesterday. And I think people should take it home in something. Even if you take the church's bowls home and bring them back next week. Because otherwise it'll go to waste. That's number 2. The third thing is very difficult for me to say here. I know that many of you, even my wonderful minister, uses Amazon, okay? And you're all for Amazon, the store, all for good reasons. I haven't used it because I haven't liked the way that they've treated for their employees. And I recently learned that they did some illegal things to prevent the union from being a union at the Alabama Amazon. But yesterday in not the Boston Journal, the Albuquerque Journal, I read that they recommend books that say that a certain antihistamine or a certain medication is good for COVID. And two people whom I think you respect, Elizabeth Warren and Adam Schiff, are saying that that's terrible. And I think it's terrible too. And I think you should know. And some of you have very good reason for using Amazon. But if you don't, I think you should think about it.
I just want to report wonderful service this past Monday up at Ghost Ranch for my father. We had a wonderful memorial. It just went beautifully and people said such nice things, and we had a beautiful lunch under the cottonwoods outdoors afterward, and then the immediate family went up to what they call the Campo Santo, the sacred ground. And he has a little plaque installed on a wall they have there, and we scattered some of his ashes, and it was just beautifully done. It was a very good send-off.
Thank you.
I have several joys, but only one candle. My aunt and uncle have fully recovered from their COVID bout.
Okay.
My uncle's infection in his leg is also fully recovered. My tater tots turned 10 yesterday. Still not sure how they snuck into double digits on us. And I've now been in New Mexico for 20 years as of today.
Wow, oh, happy anniversary. Anyone or anything else? All right, we will light one last candle for all that we still hold within our own hearts and minds. Now we will light our red candle, which we light for all the victims of racial violence. May the habits of racism be exposed to view and banished from human culture. Shalom. Yesterday marked the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It is no longer a fresh wound on our cultural psyche, but the scar tissue runs deep and is painfully sensitive. 2,977 people died in that attack. 6,000 others were injured. 19 hijackers committed murder-suicide in the heinous event. For the victims who were injured, and for all those who died, we light this candle. Even though most U.S. citizens were not present at the attacks, most of us remember where we were when we heard what had happened. It is a difficult thing to have experienced and to heal from. So I invite you to take a moment, as soon as I hush, to turn to the person beside or behind or in front of you and share, in a word or a short phrase, two things: where you were when you first heard of this event, and then share with each other who or what has been most helpful for you in healing from this trauma. So we'll take a couple of moments and share where were you and what has been most helpful in coping. I was actually prepared to pick up Jeremiah. And I got there and he told me, and we thought it was an accident. But the first plane wasn't until the second one that where were you? Oh, that's right, yes. Knew it was a country, but I never know.
My time, and just got a call from college, and we didn't have the TV. And I think one of the most comforting things was my students, because they closed school the next day. We sat down in a circle, my secretary, and talked about it. And my memorial just finished 4 years of DC. And he wanted to write other things. So I said, sure, why not? Here, later. And then somebody said, you know, why can't another class do it? And I said, well, let me ask the principal. And he agreed to it. It was on the wall and out in the hall. And he announced it. Anybody want to sign it? And he said,
Yeah, it's sort of a way my nephew was in high school at that point and organized a whole demonstration in response to it. So I'm keeping an ear out here just to check. I am sure that we could take a whole lot longer to continue to pursue our response to this. But for right now, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing. It is a peculiar truth that tragedy often strengthens human community, which does not in any way, shape, or form excuse the tragedy, but it does help us to heal from it. So our second candle we are lighting for all those who still mourn. This is for us. For those who remain troubled in their thinking and hurt in their hearts, may we help each other to heal and to grow into a healthy world community. Shalom. Now, you already know Bram isn't here, but Laurel has graciously agreed to stand in for her. Bram sent this handwritten 9/11 story of a dog named Rosalie that she was going to use as her animal ministry moment this morning. So I'm going to step aside and let Laurel read this.
Rosalie and Michael. This is the story of a trained service dog named Rosalie and her owner, Michael Hingson. They were together on what they thought would be a normal day on the 78th floor of the World Trade Center. When the first plane hit the North Tower, ripping through the floors 93 through 98, all they knew was that they heard a loud boom on the floors above them. Michael was the boss of the 78th floor, so he gathered his co-workers together and with the help of Rosalie, headed into the stairwell. Michael, who was totally blind, gave Rosalie the command of forward. So together they led everyone in his office down the darkened stairwell. Each time they passed a flight of stairs, more and more people would join them. They counted the stairs as they progressed from floor 78 toward the first floor. They were met on the 34th floor by a firefighter, purposely heading up the same stairway. The firefighter asked if Michael needed help, but he repeatedly insisted that they were doing fine on their own. The first floor was flooded. Massive amounts of gushing water that smelled like jet fuel. They waded through the water towards the front door amid gross confusions. Rosalie continued purposefully leading them out of the front doors. After everyone in the group were out of the building, they all started to move away from the crippled North Tower. People continued on their way home, knowing how close they had come to certain death. Rosalie and Michael saved many lives that day. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. We repeat these words every Sunday service to remind ourselves of why we are here and to renew our commitment. We are here because we need to be. We are enriched by our sharing experiences. This is why we support the community with our gifts of love and commitment. Thank you for your presence, your participation, and your many gifts you offer us all. Shalom.
If you'll join me in our customary chorus. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Thank you. Now I invite you all to take a really deep breath and let it out. We've had some emotional few minutes, and appropriately so. And we also need to switch gears. In a few moments, there's going to be some background music, but let me explain what we're up to. We are going to go on a special trip together. In a moment, one of our teachers in residence, we have several, but Laurel has kindly volunteered to step in this morning, and she's going to give you some specific instructions on how to participate in our book walk. The book you will be viewing is titled The Beauty of Being Your True Self by Aunt Dee. It is designed for children, so let your inner child out. Seriously. We are inviting you to stand and form a line. It can be wiggly, but you know, in the center aisle, and then to come up and walk around the sanctuary from left to right, which is how, clockwise, how we go here, to look at each of these pages and to read the text that accompanies them. When you have completed, and you need to go all the way around, the last one is up here, and then back down the center aisle to your seat. And I will tell you in advance that we have homework pages for you. You're going to love it. And I think we probably have enough, although the printer quit, it ran out of paper and I didn't realize it, so I'm not sure how many I've got. But those of you who live together, I'm pretty sure can share, and I think we actually have enough for those of us who are assembled here this morning. So by the time you get through following Laurel's instructions and get back to your seat, there should be a homework page on your seat. And if there isn't, let me know and we can either make more later or whatever. So I invite you to engage your imagination and prepare to have fun in an orderly fashion.
Watch out. As Reverend Nancy said, you are going to form a single file line going down the center, starting over here at the daffodil. You are going to go quietly. No talking, no pushing, no shoving, no jumping line. One at a time, going through and reading it, and then going quickly and quietly back to your seat. There will be no coffee, no water, no bathroom breaks. If you have any questions, you raise your hand. And Nancy and I will come as quickly as we can to answer any inquiries. Is that understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's quietly stand up. And Job well done, class. You all get gold stars, if I hear that.
This means we could take more field trips. Seriously. You know, some churches do Stations of the Cross. We do a whole different kind of station. So, in many ways, reading this story is kind of like preaching to the choir, I am sure, because UUs rarely, if ever, have trouble affirming the beauty of the individual. And in that, we very much reflect our US culture. We are a nation of independent individualists, and we are proud of it. Any child can grow up to be president. Our Constitution got rid of concepts of nobility and privilege as being the rights of some at the expense of others. All people are created equal. This is a good thing. So good that we may have gone a little too far with it. As we've considered before, sometimes it's a slippery slope from individuality to individualism. And while individuality is marvelous and creative and achieves all kinds of great things, individualism lifts that into the realm of idolatry. Individualism compromises and destroys community. It's a bizarre paradox, really. Individualism seems to suggest that each of us got to be the unique creatures that we are, all on our own. We are our own highest achievement. It locks community into the role of that which binds us, ignoring the fact that community supports and sustains us, and that without it, we'd all be dead. Seriously, think about it. One of the 20th century's lasting images of evil comes to us from one of my favorite sources, Star Trek, The Next Generation. Remember the Borg? Well, the symbol for me of how ingrained that image is into our collective cultural psyche is that when I type that, my computer doesn't even register it as an odd word. It simply accepts it because everybody knows what it is and how to spell it. So the Borg is an image of a species that is a collective, robbing individuals of their individuality and substituting blind obedience to the collective in its place. The loss of the uniqueness of our character, our personal expressions of being human, is about the worst thing that we can imagine. To be subsumed into a collective that tolerates no free thought, no personal creative expression, that literally dehumanizes us and turns us into a mere cog in a complex pattern of someone else's design, is our collective worst nightmare. We want to avoid anything that dehumanizes us and compromises our personhood at all costs. So whether it's autocratic rule by an imperial power from outer space, or from other humans seeking obscene levels of power over others, we resist, and rightly so. If non-compliance results in death, many of us would rather die than comply and surrender our independence and creativity. We have experienced those circumstances on many levels, and sadly, almost, none were the result of space aliens. They were all the efforts of fellow human beings. One of the most recent examples may be the abortion prohibition in Texas that sets citizens up against each other to police the reproductive health of women and turn in as law-breaking criminals those who seek abortion. Those dynamics compromise autonomy, and they also undermine community as they pit people against each other. Law like that gives community a bad name. we are already struggling to develop and keep healthy community. Human history is rife with examples of community as restrictive and destructive, as controlling and ultimately deadly. So a healthy sense of caution in regard to community is realistic. Our focus on individuality as one of the highest forms of human expression makes sense. And yet, when it comes to community, we can't live without it. We cannot sustain life on this planet as human beings without community. So here's the good news. Healthy community fosters healthy individuality. They are not opposed. In fact, we can't have one without the other. As you read the text and admired the creatures in Aunt Dee's book, I am sure that it was clear that it's a celebration of healthy individuality. Longing to be someone or something else is to sell yourself short. And if every house cat was a tiger, well, the world would be a dramatically different place. If all the flowers were the same, or if all the birds sang the same song, how bland, how boring would that be? We are enriched by our differences. We need hip-hop artists and opera singers and country western crooners and blues balladeers, along with every other kind of music on earth to inspire and enrich us. Imagine for just a second a world with no music. What would you dance to? What would you wake up to? What would you exercise to? Celebrate with? Mourn with? How would we settle our children to sleep without lullabies? So let's ask ourselves this. Where did we learn how to make music? Who taught you to sing? Because I am pretty sure that none of us sprang from the womb with a symphony on our lips. Babies cry, they don't sing. Now, you can calm a screaming baby by matching the sounds they're making and slowly reducing the pace and volume to calmer levels. But that still doesn't turn crying into singing. The truth is that we are all the product of community. The most ardently hardwired, introverted, independent person among us did not create their individuality by themselves. No matter how much we stress independence and strive for autonomy, humans are born with very few skills or instincts. We have to learn almost everything from scratch. The challenge of childhood is often to develop our own character and personality and learn to treasure it. The creatures on the pages that surround us are working that out. The conclusion that you are unique and that the world is better for everyone because of that is very important. We as adults still need to remember that. But often the challenge for adults is to learn how to build healthy community without compromising or destroying individuality and without going off on our own so completely that we fall into the idolatrous trap of individualism. So ask yourself this. You can add it to your homework page if you like. Who taught you how to be human? Who were your role models, your coaches? Who did you admire and try to be like? Whose advice did you seek? Who were your teachers? What bits of yourself link you to other people in your life that you borrowed them from? Whose ideas have become part of your thinking? Because none of us was born knowing that social justice is a noble goal, or that justice, equity, and compassion should characterize human relations. Who taught you how to be you? To quote Hillary Rodham Clinton, "What village raised you?" Because without one, none of us would be here. And probably it was not just one village, but many different ones that had input into creating who each of us is today. I can tell you from personal experience that if you stand in a newborn nursery full of a dozen or so babies, it is immediately evident that human beings arrive with a budding personality in place. Some babies are placid and adaptable. Some babies scream at the slightest stimulus. Likes and dislikes, skills and strengths, our inherent abilities are there from the start, like a template that needs to be built on to create a fully human being. What nurtures us in that building project is community. Clinton was right. It does take a village. Each of these creatures on the surrounding pages admires something about another creature and longs to be like that. That's how we grow. Human growth and development is not a binary either-or proposition. We are not either individuals or members of a community. We are both, or we are dead. And yes, a rare few people become hermits in adulthood, but even they rely on skills acquired in community in their youth before going off on their own. You may think that this is obvious, and I sort of think it should be, but sadly, I'm pretty sure it's not. Because if we took this really seriously, we'd pay attention, a lot of attention, to how we create and live in healthy communities. We'd put as much emphasis on healthy community as we do on healthy individuality. Both have their isms, forms of existence that fall into idolatrous and destructive patterns. Individuality can devolve into individualism. It loses its creativity and reduces everything to the power of one. Community can devolve into fascism, imperialism, or a whole lot of other isms that control and suppress instead of encouraging growth and creativity. But we do not need to be intimidated by the isms. We need to take them on and intentionally create healthy individuals and healthy communities. In today's world, it may well be that building healthy community is the challenge of the hour. At least in this country, we've got the message that individuality is good. We need to keep working on that and embrace community at the same time. Now I want to close with just a little bit of wordplay, something that many of you by now know that I love, because our language and how we use it tells us a lot about our unconscious thought process. So please note, both the word one and the word you are the same words in both their singular and plural forms. You can be singular and very personal, or it can be plural and refer to a huge collective or community. I can address a single individual as you, or I can address this whole room full of people as you. And grammatically, I'm still correct. And it's the same with the word one. It can mean literally a single item or individual. It can also mean an unmeasurably huge, and I know the word's supposed to be immeasurably, but unmeasurably just makes the point so much better. It can be a huge, enormous number of people who are united in their humanity. We are each one single person, and all of us together are also one. Community counts, people. We don't want to be a collective like the Borg. We need to pay close attention to building healthy community so that humanity can flourish. So in closing, I'm going to use the words of Jean-Luc Picard. Make it so. Blessed be. Now, I'm actually kind of ecstatic that as I look at the clock, depending on what your watch says and how it matches up with what I'm looking at, we're actually only like 2 minutes over time. And it was really hard to plan the time for this service between walking around and talking about memories and all this other kind of stuff. So thank you for sticking with me for the whole time. We sort of don't really have time for discussion unless there's a burning desire to make time, which while I would love it, I know that we all have schedules to get to, etc. But I am going to ask that we all stand as we are able, because 3 guesses which hymn I chose. We Would Be One. It was at number 318. And it only has 2 verses, and they're both kind of important. So let's see if we can warble our way through our many single individual voices. We're going to make one out of them. We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to the high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all our new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free. Thank you. If you would join me now in our unison reading as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish our flame, secure in the knowledge that each of us holds it in our own hearts. Together we live all it stands for into community. Blessed be.
Shalom and amen.
Okay. May you know yourself to be unique. There is no one as good at being you as you are. May you know yourself to lead and to follow, to teach and to learn, to create and to destroy. May most of all, may you know yourself to be in relationship with others through the loving care of community. Shalom and amen. And now if we would face each other across the center aisle, we will sing our closing song, Go Now in Peace. You ready, Adia? Okay, because she knows this. Are we ready? Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Thank you.
Thank you.